The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Road to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show. I am Barnzy, as usual, joined by the inimitable Stuart Williams. Beef Stew, how are you?
I am doing very well. I'm not bowling very well, but I'm doing very well. Interesting
regional update.
Yeah, I was about to say interesting trip up to Shawnee this weekend. They were very easy until they weren't. The only thing that I can say is it's exactly how I described them to Ryan. I told him word for word that exact phrase. They're extremely easy till they aren't. And Ryan was bowling 290 the first game going into the 10th frame. And I said, bet you're a little confused as to how 90 over is a good score, right?
Yeah.
And Ryan's just like, what? Like, how? And, well, I felt the same way after I followed Ryan. I had front 7, 256, front 12, 300.
Whoa.
And then I was 105, 110 over after 5. So it came at me kind of quick, the transition. It was one of those things. It was just like the national tour.
Mm-hmm.
They were at their easiest before we threw a shot, and every shot we threw, they got more difficult. And because they were quite easy, you could bowl pretty much second, third, or fourth arrow, and people did. And when you get those options, that means the cross is a train wreck. And
Yeah.
it was.
Especially some places that tight down lane.
This is a response to Mark saying, I spend way too much money on bowling balls. I really need to win this one. And Travis's response is, but do you regret buying any of them? And he says, a few of them, yes. I regret getting the Nova. And I can see that because that was definitely the Marmite ball. You either loved it or you hated it. There was no in between.
The Shiny Nova was a house shot killer, I guess, but I can see it might not be for everyone, not for every house shot, I guess. So,
how did your day go yesterday? Shout out to Sean Maldonado for winning. He had a tough season, so it's good to see him.
Yeah, he was really struggling at one point there, just physically the whole way around, back, the whole deal. You finished 11th.
No, I think I was a little lower than that.
Okay. Ryan finished 10th.
Yeah.
He missed that cut by 20 after basically a S show of a morning, almost missing the top 16 after being third, and then rallied back, almost got in, and just short there. You guys are in Wichita this weekend. Graduation weekend for him, which he's opted to bowl versus walking.
I'm going to give that one a skip. Although, really quick, there was almost no regional in Wichita last night because they were under tornado warning. And Frankie said that the warning was a scale 5 out of 5, which I think they said the last time they had that was 2016 or 2017. But thankfully, it didn't touch down in Wichita. It ended up touching down just outside of Tulsa, I believe. So Oklahoma isn't having the best of it the last 2 or 3 weeks with the storm.
Actually gets. Who are you two voting for Player of the Year? Nobody until the playoffs is over, because I think it's
there's still even a bit more after that.
Yeah, you got the tour finals also. There's still two.
Yeah, but then
events or major-ish events televised that involve the 3-4 guys that are, and there's, I mean, if Troop wins, it gets real interesting. If Bill wins, he puts himself back in the race.
VJ wins, it's kind of over.
Yeah. Simo wins.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting again.
Yeah, there's still.
Although Simo doesn't have the major, so I think he's
on the outside looking in. The TOC thing hurt him. Where I think my Kingpin teammate got the win, but I don't know that anyone thinks that he outbowled Simo in that particular game.
No. Yes, Marshall is also obviously a option. He has a title and a major. And he ended up being second in points. Did you see that? Just because I'm a numbers guy, I find it just fascinating. Marshall and Simo were separated by like 108 points in 22,000. I was just like, what?
That's wild.
I mean, I know that Nathan missed out on the exemption by like 30 points.
Which is also completely nuts.
Yeah. So there's a guy who didn't miss out on the exemption.
Any thoughts on the PWA when you switch balls going for 300?
Did you hear about this?
I did hear about this and dug in a little bit, and it sounds like a pretty large failure of communication or listening, one of the two. But I've also been on some of those shows where the match is over and it had the front whatever, and you're preparing for the next game, and you look over and ask and go, is there a bonus? Because no one's ever said anything, which should be part of the TV sheet when you get it. But the fact she didn't know and didn't ask, I guess ultimately it's on the player, but I think it's a big failure when they don't let the players know what's on the line.
Yeah, and I also thought it was a little strange because Rob Gotcha was there and he had worked for USBC and he wasn't really aware either. So
yeah, new season, you never know what sponsorship has to come in place for that to happen. So
yeah, and generally those bonuses are kind of usually restricted to like actual TV rather than streaming. So let's quickly spin back to your block yesterday. What happened? What did you use? Where are you sat?
Oh yeah, I guess we haven't explained it for the people that didn't see it. Verity had the front 10, I believe, in switch balls.
Yeah, she switched balls in the 11th and the 12th.
And there was a $10,000 bonus for shooting 300. She did not know this. She did strike in the 11th, but she got 7 on the fill, and obviously did not have any idea what was on the line for that shot. So circling back, yes, I actually got no score the first couple games. We bowled a 38-foot Holman. The gutter, it looks like a giant goalpost if you were to watch your ball reaction. There's plenty of shape in the front part of the lane. The middle lane's really flat. There's no real good way to play left of 10 or 12 early. So as usual, urethane-ish fest, softer, a lot of more soft hands out here. Do it the old school way by controlling rev rates and bigger balls. Up in between 6 and 8. You can hook off the gutter really early, but once it gets to about 25, 28 feet, it looks like that 15 mils of the 30 that's on the lane is outside of 5. So there's no way of 210 is as close as you're going to get once you get it up to the right late. But yeah, I made some mistakes. I didn't carry very well the first couple games. I was even basically for 2, and then I shot 10, 20 the last 4. Red ball up 5. Actually, red ball up about 8, 9. And 1-2 for 260. Then I switched to the road in about the 4th frame of the next game for 260. The one that's in the review, ironically, that just got put up, that really flat, 4.5 by 2 by 4, 4.5 by 2.5 by 4, but it's super flat. And it stayed in that zone, and that RG let it kind of do that drift up and let me keep it in the little slot that we have the pole in. And it did all the right things today. I thought that was a ton of score from what I thought was out there, but turns out the scores were fairly high. There's 100 over to be in the top 24, which is the highest of the year by a mile so far.
Yeah, maybe it's one of the few patterns that you've played on this year that like is going to start off a little more difficult and then kind of develop as the day goes, especially with there being a little less rev rate / a lot less rev rate.
The scores were highest on A actually, but the surprise thing is nobody really got left of 20. There was a few guys that were trying too late, but even JJ was playing 17, 18, just throwing heaters. It's just so flat. I think it hooks so much on the way to it. There's so much more oil on the back side of it. You can't get it back once you get through all the friction.
I was about to say it's especially surprising considering Andres Gomez was leading. My man likes to curve it.
He does like to curve it, and I'm not sure he even threw urethane early. It looked like he was just throwing something that didn't flare a lot. And there's enough oil down lane. It'll hold your ball back down there. You're using curve too. I mean, there's a ton of mils on the lane, but it just plays like new SPL kind of plays like Guardian. So it just kind of hooks early and gets tight down lane.
So Aiden, I'll be honest with you. I actually have no idea what's going on. They keep this one super, super under wraps. I know it's not the Lightning Blackout because I thought it was and then realized that the Lightning Blackout was on the website.
Yeah.
I had an awkward conversation with Blair, made her very scared because she thought I'd already thrown the ball. And she's like, what? What? And then realized, oh, we're probably talking about a different ball because we didn't really mention the names. But if I did know, with how much Storm have been all over this, I wouldn't tell you anyway. But I don't know. So I've got it running across the bottom. We're gonna do a Lightning Blackout giveaway. If you want to win one, slap a super chat in like Jack's just done here, or just buy something on beefandbarnzy.com. That way you could get, well, I guess you can buy this, but it's better if you buy this on coolwit.com. You can buy a Beef and Barnzy t-shirt. We've got a bunch of stuff on there. I'm looking at getting some other different sort of stuff on, but yeah, check it out. And yeah, we will add you. So I've got my email open. I get a notification every time. And just for reference, the last person who won did buy an item on beefandbarnzy.com. So there's your options. So the Aggie, our friend from Austin, says we need a matchmaker in Austin. I'm sure there will be one. Gary Robinson would be the person to ask for that. He's usually the person who hosts most of those. So check that out. Yes, she did. We just spoke about it. And
hi guys.
Right.
Chris, what business does old guy Walter Ray have beating young guy Barnes? Yeah, well, sorry for you. What's he been doing to elevate his game again? And what will you do to jump over those guys this year? Well, I've been ahead of him every year except for the two left-handers the last couple. But Walter is so underestimated on how competitive he is. I mean, his body is just, he's got arthritic fingers. He's got a groin issue that really never heals because he never takes any time off. And the fact that we bowled best of 3 matches at the end this year, we are so far this season anyway, it helped him because no one has thrown more shots in the 9th and 10th frame that mattered than he has. And if he can get you to that spot, he is way more likely to throw his best shot than his opponents are. And so he got in the right bracket. He made great shots. He made guys show up or shut them out, and then got in the step ladder and bowled 2. He was fairly well trapped. We all had surface, and we were all left of him, and he knew he wasn't going to last for much longer, but it lasted just long enough to wipe the floor with me and Tom Adcock. And then the next game, he had 0 strikes on the 1 lane, and it just went high every shot, which is based on how the week had gone. You knew it was going to happen. I was just shocked it took as long as it did to happen. And he just kept moving left and just kept going high. And so Tom bowled another great game. That's what he does. But we'll have to make the adjustment this year to matches versus 3-game total pins and back to that kind of format. I do like the match play. I wish it was best of 5, but that's where we're at right now.
So
just get a bowl better.
We've had a couple of orders come in. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Dalton. I saw your orders. Appreciate you. We had Hubert Bowles. Morning, gents. Adam just put his entry in. Hey, Adam, what's going on? Hope you guys having a great day. Thanks, Rob and Brian. Morning, guys. Thanks for all the content. All right, well, we'll actually get on with some content now.
It really is appreciated, and we're trying, but it's led by you guys, so we will go where you go.
We have been pretty lazy though, with getting actual videos up, and by we I mean kind of me. So anyway, here is the Lightning Blackout. We are bowling. I'm bowling on a house shot because I think that most people are going to use it on that, so it seems make more sense. I've got one shot coming up so keep your eyes peeled. There's one sweet shot coming up. Oh boy, did that really just stop? Oh no, don't stop.
Yeah, for those of you who know, Lightning Blackout is 253-029 in 15. It has a Rex cover on it, which is the same cover that's on the Lightning, the Virtual Energy Blackout. So
yes,
you basically have a lower flare, higher RG Virtual Energy Blackout. And
let me
myself, I'll talk while you try and get that thing unfrozen, because technology is fantastic until it's not. And and he test ran that 3 times this morning. It was all set up, and then hey, we're live. So
yeah.
I've liked mine quite a bit. I used it on tour when it first came out. I find it as a pretty good option. I used it last week even on the 44-foot pattern. Mine's 4x4x1. So those who are not into the 2LS or Storm LS, I'm sorry, SLS, it's really tall above my ring finger. A 4-inch pin that's really tall. It's only an inch from the VAL. And then the CG just kicked slightly right of the pin. It's not quite stacked, but and then I broke the surface on it, and so I use that one as a middle ball. I like it enough. I will probably drill another one that's a little bit weaker. I haven't decided if I'll drill down because it already doesn't flare a ton, but I might just drill a down one that's got polish on it, kind of like a 4x4 by 2.5 or so, and just above the ring finger, and then let it and leave the polish on it so I can use it as a dryer lane ball off of this one that I can use almost as a middle of the Arsenal type ball. That cover is pretty responsive. So
I will continue to try and sort this.
Okay.
I know exactly what I did wrong, but I don't necessarily know how to fix it at this exact moment.
Timothy Miller, thank you for the super chat. Brian McMahon, do you believe in NBC? New ball carry. Drilled new phase 2, went back 3, and then 11 until 9 pin. Oh, okay. And then next 11 until 9 pin. Oh. I can tell you that Stu and Dom are 100% in on new ball carry, and they have officially corrupted my son, who is also in on new ball carry. I have old man hand and urethane release, and so yeah, I see it a little differently, and I have to admit that maybe in my elder years that new ball carry might help me a little bit more than not. But certainly balls, they hook their most fresh out of the box. They kind of find a middle range there for the next 30 to 50 games for sure. And then as more and more oil get into them, I mean, you're changing the chemistry slightly, and dirt and everything else.
So I believe
you will be shocked to know this, but Patrick Dombrowski used a lower flare ball most of the regional this last weekend. he will actually have a ball with a legitimate cover on it that he's going to use in PBA competition to beat our brains in. It's almost not fair since he's been doing it with tropicals for, a decade. But yeah.
All right, so we've had a few more orders in. Mark, thank you. Travis, appreciate you guys. Ken, Jeff, and Eddie. I got all your orders. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Sean, appreciate it.
Right.
Here we go.
Right. So we're bowling on I'm bowling on the house shot. This, I think it's the fourth shot you guys are going to watch out for because this thing is a beauty. And I'll explain as soon as we've thrown it. Chris has seen this shot, so he knows why it happened. But it's, I think, yeah, it's this one. Watch this bad boy.
Yo.
That's a 14-pounder. Yeah, that was a 14-pounder. I had one as part of this video that I haven't edited down yet. So I was doing a 14 versus 15. That's the only shot I included just because it was hilarious. I showed Doherty the video, and Doherty said, see, the problem is you're seeing that as a negative. When would you ever get that messenger with a 15? I go, but it went 3 feet in front of the 610. And he goes, you can dial that in. So anyway, what I have noticed for me with this blackout is it's way stronger than I expected it to be. I think that's kind of universal. It definitely likes being a little closer to the friction. For me anyway, when I separate a lot with this ball, and you'll see it towards the end, it just doesn't really do what I want it to do because it doesn't flare as much.
Yeah, I think just that the flare of their other balls, I think.
Yeah, I think that its superpower is being close to the friction and not coming off it super hard. Now, it can hook a lot. I just don't think that that's where it works best, if that makes sense. Like once I start playing these angles, I feel like it's just I have to do too much with my hand to make it do what I want it to do, and I have better options. And the whole point
has a fair amount of oil down lane. That's a slick surface.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is I just feel like when you're building an arsenal, this probably is. It's not that you can't do it. It's just probably you're going to have a better option.
Yeah.
If you want to get really left, we've got a bunch of balls you can do that with. So what's exciting about this ball is that it doesn't overreact off the dry. You see how smooth that one was? So that's what I really like about it. Having that lower flare ball that doesn't overreact off the dry, I think is something that we haven't had. In comparison to the road, it flares quite a bit less. I drilled my road pretty strong also, and the road flares miles for me. Whereas this one, even with that was a 4 3/4 inch pin, and the lines are still almost touching each other. I didn't get very much separation at all, which for me is pretty unusual. If I usually drill a ball with that sort of pin, it kind of flares quite a bit. Even an IQ Tour, which has similar numbers, for me the IQ Tour is earlier, and way more rounded. This ball is definitely quicker, but like I say, it's hard to describe it because it's so much different to other balls. Did you not find that, Chris, a little bit? Like, I feel like we're so used to seeing that one motion where, especially when the house shot starts to break down a little bit and you throw it at the dry, you see the ball super overreact, and then you throw it into the oil. And you don't really need to do that with this ball. I didn't find anyway.
No, I feel like it is more responsive than a road, but that lower flare part really lets you blend it off a little bit more. We haven't had one with basically a high end cover on a core like this in a long time. I mean, since the IQ Tour, really.
Yeah.
In its time when it first came out, that was a high end cover on a smaller core, and I think in this world that we live in now, where all the surfaces are getting older, the new surfaces have texture, the oils are thicker. That having some options like this for those of you that don't like to really separate your angles a lot, this is a ball that will you can play in the track and use that track area and still get it to hit. And
100%.
I think this is like I said, I'm going to probably drill another one for C Squad tonight. I almost don't want to drill it for C Squad because we don't bowl on very much of this out here, and I don't really want to waste it because
Yeah.
But to probably fit, I'll probably drill it a little stronger than I normally would for a C Squad, just so I have a shiny version of the same thing to go with the one that has some surface on it.
I think as long as you're keeping your angles a little more in front of you, I think you can actually throw this ball pretty hard and it's responsive enough. Whereas, like for me, a hustle, if I get into those hustles and I start throwing them really fast, they just, like you're talking about the cover, not really wanting to dig in as much.
Right.
It makes it a little hard to get it around the corner.
Older, weaker covers, they respond a ton to friction, but if you hit some of that oil in between, it doesn't. They don't always love that as much.
It goes thoughts on where each will fit: Lightning, Ruby, and Exponent Pearl. Well, the Exponent Pearl for me is the most responsive and the strongest of those. I think the Ruby would be next, and the Ruby might be the smoothest of the three. It's kind of a toss up, but I feel like the Ruby would be next, and then the Lightning would be the weakest of the three balls. Now, I'm sure I'll get some pushback on the Ruby versus the Lightning, with the cover being a little weaker on the Ruby, but I don't know. I haven't really.
There's quite a bit more.
The which one?
The Exponent Pearl.
Yeah, I think that.
And that cover is, like I said, it's a more responsive cover versus a stronger cover. The Lightning, I think, will be the one you can use the most often, but also the one that, when you're getting down to these balls, there's some friction on the lane. It's also the one that will get through the front the easiest. That makes sense.
Yeah, maybe. Like I say, for me, the Exponent Pearl it stands up so hard. It's it's hard for me to envision where the Exponent Pearl actually fits shiny, because it's so responsive for me. I have to use it with surface on it.
And and we've talked about this. I actually, after talking with Hank Boomershine at the Masters, I actually flipped the Exponent Pearl. I actually put surface on Exponent Pearl, which then made it make more sense, because it is so strong off of it that now it lets me. It's a little more predictable when I'm going to use it. And then the Exponent Shiny actually has been surprisingly strong in some places that I didn't really expect it to be. Where before, not quite enough core to use it on tour heavy oil, but then too early when they hooked it, when they started to break down, and I was in the middle of the transition. So I shot actually that shiny one in last week. I went 257 300 at Parker in the semifinal round to make the show.
I think that's a bit thing that some people don't like, non-pros don't necessarily always understand. To throw a ball hard, the ball almost has to be quite responsive. Like for me, it's very difficult to throw the gem really hard because it's so smooth that it's going to burn up a little bit in the front on almost everything, especially if I want to throw it hard. And because it's not very responsive, I find that ball is a ball that I tend to have to throw a little slower. Whereas like something that's a bit more responsive, I find it easier to throw it harder, because as long as you get it to the friction, it's going to come off it. And I think that's a little bit what you've ended up doing with that Exponent. By shining it, you've made it a little more responsive. Now you kind of just have to control the spot where it's going to be responsive with your ball speed in your hand. And
right.
So
it's
that
useful.
kind of
Usually under bowl. I've used it I'm still not using it when they're hard so much as I'm using it when they're easy, shiny. Whereas before I used it mostly when they were hard, when it was 2000. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
Thanks, James. Appreciate the purchase on Beef and Barnzy. Arsenal review for Nationals this weekend. Well, I will be leaving just as you're arriving because I'm going on Wednesday, so I won't really be able to help you. But Magic Gem, Infinite Physics. Jeff Wriggles shot 300 with the Infinite Physics, just by the by. Phase 2, Road, Hustle X-Ray, Ice. 285 revs, 15 miles an hour. Suggest any changes. Kind of like what you've got. I feel like if you were going to change anything, I might. I don't know that you're going to need Magic Gem, Infinite Physics, and Phase 2. In my mind, they might be a little bit close to each other if you're only taking 6 balls. I know you've got a little bit of a lower rev rate. I just feel like if you can't get those balls through the front part of the lane, especially on the team event, I don't really know what you've only got the road and the X-ray.
And the road's fairly smooth as well.
Yeah, that would be my only fear for you. But overall, I think you've got pretty nice progressions, and it's 6 balls is often a scenario where you end up with, I'd like 1 extra. I just feel like, because if you had, say, Phase 2 and then you had something like a Sublime or a Gold Label or just something a little more than the road, but still like kind of cleaner, I think that would round the Arsenal off nicely. The other scenario that you could go with, in my mind anyway, is replace the Infinite Physics for something like a Blackout on a Retention Star. Something that was a little cleaner and a little sharper. And then you'd go Magic Gem Phase 2 Infinite Vibo.
Yeah.
I think that might flow a little better, but with what you've got and how you're saying it, I don't think it's terrible for sure. Your thoughts, Chris?
No, I think you covered both sides of what would have been if there were concerns to have.
Yeah,
that would be it.
But like you always
some pretty good options, I think, to play where the pattern looks like it's going to play out on the team, and then be able to use the oil and doubles and singles and be able to throw a few more of those stronger balls. I think on that team, that's the one concern because they do hook, and if you can't play the gutter, I think they really hook. So. I know you guys have been fans of the Hustle line. Any thoughts on the 2 new ones, the BRY and X-Ray?
I've had the BRY on the floor to drill for Tina for a couple of weeks, but I haven't got round to it. When I tried to order, the X-Ray wasn't available. I think from what I've seen, the X-Ray is going to be better for guys with a bit more rev rate. I think the thing that's been really useful for the Hustles recently is that lower rev rate, slower ball speed players get something that never really burns up, and taking a like more surface to it with the X-Ray, I think might be a little more difficult for the people who love the Hustles. I think it's probably going to be the people who liked that PBR. You were a PBR guy, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
The red one.
Yep.
You use that. I think that the Hustle X-Ray reminds me most of that PBR. Kind of like a mini idol type ball.
Yeah, it's kind of a top of the line ball that you can keep straight without being a 2-inch pin necessarily.
Type of deal. Yeah. BJ Moore used it. But BJ Moore makes everything look good, basically.
Jesus, he throws good.
But yeah, he kind of used it to be left and kind of control the pattern. Did a decent job. So like I say, haven't actually seen anybody throw the other one at all yet. So, yeah.
Hey, Brian, appreciate it.
Shh.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Chris, what's going on? Yeah, you fancy a bull giveaway? Again, nice profile pic. Did I keep polish on it? Yes. Yep. I didn't really it didn't really make sense to me to change the surface on that blackout, especially not for the videos. So Billy says, morning guys, would Vibo and Lightning Blackout be a good combination for League? It depends how much oil you guys have, but yes, I could see them being, especially if you're a little slower ball speed. I could see them being pretty nice.
Older surfaces, anything, if they hook a little bit, I think those make a lot of sense. So,
and for somebody like yourself, Chris, even though you don't have slower ball speed, you almost, the balls you end up choosing for that kind of fit into somebody who does have slower ball speed because of how early you make everything hook. I could see that being a pretty nice 1-2 for you. You've had success with the Rex cover also.
Yeah, I like that cover a lot. So somebody asked if that cover was stronger than the Ruby, and yes, it's. I think it's stronger, meaning in oil, than the Ruby cover.
Well, it's it's like from my understanding, it's like R2S, and then the next one up, which is NEX. It's sort of like them together. One-handed, 300 RPMs, 14 miles an hour on the monitor. Harsh Reality, Attention Star, Sublime, Phase 2, The Road, Hustle, Rip, and Spareball. Do I have any gaps to fill? Also, would a Lightning Blackout fit in my bag? I think you've done a pretty good job. If I was numbering this, it would go Harsh Reality Phase 2, then the Attention Star, Sublime. But that's just my ADD, I guess.
Something angular, and that's kind of where the Vibo might fit in, something like that.
Yeah, and then you're talking about the Lightning Blackout. It would fit kind of underneath the road and between your between the road and your Hustle Rip.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think it could. I don't particularly think that you have like massive gaps. I think for a lot of people, especially with slightly lower revs, the Rip is a ball that does come off the spot pretty good down the lane. So
hoping so.
Yeah,
gonna get a shot tonight.
But but like I say, I think you got a nice combination there. What type of bowler would match up best with this ball? I think, and I really need to get one here. The people like for my wife, she uses the hustles a lot, and I'm really excited to get this ball into her hands because I feel like it's the best of a hustle, but like without having to, when the hustle's not quite strong enough.
I need to step away for just a second.
Yeah, no worries. When the hustle isn't quite strong enough, I feel like having this like better, stronger cover is going to be really useful for them. I feel like higher rev rate, lower speed players, rev dominant players are probably going to quite like this. They might have to put a little bit of surface on it. But that's where I see it fitting. I think if you're a speed dominant, lower rev rate player, you're probably going to be the worst for this ball. The worst combination. I think you could still end up using it, but I don't think that this is the one that's necessarily the best option for you guys. Hey, how did you bowl? Let us know. How bad was team? We're in some pretty rough reports. Morning, gents. Do you reuse rough edge as a 1-to-1 to step 2? Also, could you see an Attention Star and a Vibo in the same bag, or are they too similar? So I don't really use rough edge as a product. I haven't got any. From what I was told, if you wanted to use rough edge as a step 2 replacement, you should probably use a little bit of water with it. So yeah, that was the feedback I got. So if you use a little bit of water with it, and Attention Star and Vibo in the same bag, or are they too similar? I actually think those balls complement each other pretty well. I think the Attention Star is much more forward. It's earlier and it's more of a control ball, even with it being a pearl asymmetrical. In a lot of ways, I could see for some more speed dominant players, an Attention Star could actually be a benchmark ball. In the definition I use for benchmark, which is something that will read the lane, be in play most of the time, and give you feedback over what you should do. I think an Attention Star does a lot of those things. I know that people are pretty much fixed on low RG, solid symmetrical for that, but it's horses for courses for me on that.
Yeah.
I've used an Absolute as my benchmark ball for the past couple of years. I'm kind of running a little low on those, so sort of moving away from that, kind of using it more as a niche ball now, and in a positive niche ball, shall we say, saving it for its best spots. But yeah, I know Chris uses the Vibo in his bag as a much cleaner ball than I do.
Yeah. I did drill another one and then broke the surface a little bit to use it as more of a kind of a heavy angular type ball, I guess. Although it's for truly heavy oil, there's some better options probably, but we don't bowl in super high volumes out here from that standpoint.
Concerts with Chris says, in the SPI range of brands, if you had to pick just one and only use their products without crossing, which would you pick and why? Well, if I was bowling on tour, I'd be forced to pick Storm because they're the only brand that has a urethane ball. They also have twice as many balls as Global and Rotogrip put together. If we were to look at the website, I think that this year, the majority of my year was Storm also. So I use the DNA coil a lot. I use the Absolute Power a lot. I use the Journey a little bit. I use the IQ Red, the 78. I use the IQ. I use the Phase 2. So like for me, I'd have to throw Storm.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows every year, but the number of choices alone, Storm will win on that. And I threw a lot of Global this year, and then split pretty evenly between Storm and Rotogrip. I guess really considering the number of balls, it's probably a third is probably pretty close for me. But
yeah, I mean, looking at the current Global lineup, I almost didn't use any of the Global balls this year.
And I still use the Zen
a little bit.
Sublime a little.
Yeah, a little, but Sublime is a much better ball at home than it is on tour for me.
Yeah.
Just doesn't fit the gaps that I have in my arsenal.
Yeah, it was good on the shortish patterns this year. So, hey, Jeremy, thanks.
What's going on? Kirk, good morning, guys. Oh, we just got another order from Chris. Wow, Chris is double dipping. Chris Martin, double dipping. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your support of the show.
Thomas, from the top of the swing down, what do you focus on and what are your techniques to help me keep my elbow in and get my hand inside under the ball?
I can tell you for sure, if I'm focusing on anything from the top of my swing, my scores ain't good.
as a elder statesman who now struggles a little bit more with this than I ever did in the best parts of my career, I focus a lot on keeping this shoulder back because once it rolls forward, your hand rolls on the outside, your elbows on the outside, your swings on the outside. And if you want a younger version of that, watch Marshall because the ones that go left, his shoulder rotates from the top down a little early, and his swing ends up he ends up laying it down a couple outside, which then puts his shot, and if with the shoulder forward, if he misses a little left from there with his rev rate as high as it is, it gets way offline real fast. And when we have urethane there's no urethane carry down left to where we're playing. So, yeah, I mean, he makes, and, Stu ran into this earlier on a show. When there's a lot of urethane like that and you get it outside of the tube of where the urethane is, you're basically bowling on a pattern that's 4 feet shorter than where you're playing. And so the miss looks horrific compared to what it really is. But really, for me, it's about keeping the shoulder back because if it rotates forward, my head goes forward, the ball's only going one way, it's going left.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that just the one thing I will tell you is whenever anybody's bowling well, they're never thinking about those things. Like my best advice to you is when you're in practice is to try and think about what Chris is saying. Yeah. If you're in a tournament, the main things I think to focus on are staying tall, like all the things you do at the start of your approach, trying to think about the things at the back part of your approach just before the foul line. It just never works out well.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's good for my opponent to start thinking about where his third and fourth steps are. I find that to be very useful for me, not so much for them. But
man, do you always do that thing with your hand at the top?
Oh boy. When I was a rookie, I heard a lot of different things. There's a few different subtle ass, just innocent questions.
Do you breathe on your first step or the second step?
Yeah. Do you always blink in the middle of your approach? Or do you keep your eyes open the whole time?
I actually never knew about the blinking thing, right? About whether I did or didn't till I tried bowling in contacts. Then I realized that I 100% didn't blink and contacts weren't an option because my eyes were so dry.
By the
time I got to the foul line, I was fucked.
That's exactly when I found
out. Sorry.
You start planning your blink like it's on your second, you have to blink in the right window.
Love trying to win things. Me too. Dalton with another order. Attaboy. Attaboy, Dalton.
Well, in my first regional this weekend in Wichita, any advice? We talked about this a little bit earlier. I think there's some easy things to learn is be familiar with double jump so you don't get uncomfortable messing around with that. And double jump just means basically one pair of courtesy on each side. It's like one lane courtesy, just one pair. Someone on your pair goes, someone on their pair goes, someone on there. It's not really more difficult than that. You obviously most of the time alternate on your own pair, and that kind of takes care of itself. But it's just one pair courtesy. Know the ball rules, so you're not using the wrong ball.
I was really just quick. The key to double jump is look at the sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
If the sweeps on the other pair are moving and your sweeps aren't moving, it's your go.
Yeah, like that's the cheat code. If you lose where you're at, just look down there. And
the person who told me that, I think it was Ryan Schaefer. Most valuable thing ever. If you also look across and there's no sweeps moving and everybody's looking at you, it's your turn.
That also is a key, yes.
The rest but anyway, sorry, going back.
Yeah, and then from the bowling standpoint, I mean, there's going to be plenty of good players there. So if you're a little confused as to what you do, one, start your warm-ups from further right than you think you need to be. That will make the people on your pair happy as well. You'll get a clearer picture of the lane, and then you can just move left only. And but watch what's going on around you, and You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If there's guys that are bowling good, they're both somewhat similar to you, do what they're doing.
Yeah, they're also bowling on Johnny Petraglia 46 feet, which is kind of similar to what we bowled on 2 years ago in Wichita. You bowled very well there. Dom and Simo
the national stuff. Yeah, they're tight.
Yeah. Gems look really good there. Playing around second arrow, actually in Wichita, the track is so like dominant, but I don't feel like the fronts are bad in Wichita, so you can use stronger balls. If you can find something around the track going a little straighter, I feel like there's almost a bit of a like inbuilt like in the lane itself, so you get a little bit more hook than you probably should from the pattern. So I find Chris has bowled way more than I have, but being a little straighter in Wichita, I think the carry's a little better. I think that once you start hooking it, the ring 10 is like death in Wichita. And the kickbacks, especially if you have a bit more speed, they fly around. If you 7-10, get someone to record it because there's a 50-50 chance you're going to make it. Yeah.
Just probably make sure if you're going on that pattern. I mean, the regional version can sometimes be a little less oil, but if you don't have one already with 500-ish on it, have a pad handy to do it in practice to make sure you have a ball that hooks enough for the first game or two. So that would be it.
Yeah.
I don't want to over inundate you with too much information, but
okay. So you got a reality check, an eternity, an alert. Good God, you got a lot of balls that are really similar there. Phase 2, absolute, another one. Zen, High Road Pearl. Okay.
Offhand, 3 1/4, next ball, love the alert. Phase 2, Zen.
Right. To me, if you're looking for something like, it's quite clear that you like the cleaner asymmetricals. So I think if you're wanting something to be a replacement for one of those, I think you're probably not going to go much wrong with the Vibo or the Attention Star. I think both of those are going to be, I think a lot of players have liked them. DNA Coil is another one that might be a good replacement for your alert.
I would say, like, Stu, if you're more rotation, I would skew towards the Attention Star. If you're more up the back, I would skew towards the Vibo. And the Coil is in between those two.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Coil, when you can strike with it, it strikes tons. I think it's a little, I think that for me, even though I like the Coil way more than I like the Attention Star, I think the Attention Star is a little more versatile. Like, I feel like it's in play more of the time, whereas the DNA Coil is either absolutely the nuts or it's not. But it's a good ball to have if you have, like, 8 or 10 balls, because immediately. There's no like trying to just help it to make it strike. It either strikes or it doesn't.
Last 5 minutes for the super chats. So get those in if you want to be entered. Is the Villages 100%? There's crowds in the morning. One of the nice things about everybody being here, most of them are retired. So we have crowds in the morning. We have stands in there, and there's people there all the time. It's one of the most fun places to bowl, and at night it's jammed in there. It's fun.
Morning. Bowled 725 in the green replacement Beef and Barnzy shirt a couple of weeks ago. First 700 in a long time. Thanks again for getting out quick. No problem. Graham, Stu, do you like the Lightning Blackout? Yeah. So
you don't like strong covers on weak cores, for example, the Duo covers way stronger.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just feel like this one actually makes more sense when it goes down the lane, because the core is so weak that it kind of lets you use the cover, whereas the Duo, I don't know that the cover's that much different. I just think that core is like, for me anyway, that core is just so much stronger that it's kind of like, it's not all the way to being strong.
Yeah.
But it
They're very
helps.
rolly.
Yes.
Very rolly all the way around.
So the Lightning Blackout for me is a ball that I'll have with me. It's probably not going to be a ball I use a ton, but I think when I do use it, I think it's going to be really good because it's so much different. So that's kind of how I see it. Like, I'm excited by the Blackout and to some extent the Road because they're different, but they're not balls I'm going to use all the time because most of the time I have good ball motion. But the times I don't, I feel like for a while we had too many balls that were like kind of similar. The Road and this Blackout are definitely different. So that's what's good. And the whole point of building an arsenal is you never have a situation where you're like, oh fuck, what do I do? Like that's
Right.
principally the reason why you want to have a rounded, bigger arsenal, because you want to have options
You have an
all the
option
time.
that fits in with your skill set, so
Yeah.
that you're not beat by the lane man
Yeah.
without throwing a shot. What surface is your suggestion for Rex covers? Is it different from SPL suggested on the Lightning Blackout? My Lightning Blackout has a little surface on it, but I've moved it up to kind of a mediumish spot in my arsenal as well. Like I said, I'll probably draw one and leave it box shined. I don't know if I'll have to break it or not. At that point, when I want to use it, it'll be on some hook.
I was about to say, you talking about that makes me think that I might actually, and I know this is going to sound weird, I might actually get one and do it with 4K fast, because I really like the Night Road and I really like the Infinite Physics, and they were both kind of that type of deal.
Yeah.
So with the same cover. So yeah, might be an idea. Sorry. Absolute Power, Phase 2, Dark Code, Journey, Tour Dynamics, Revenant, 15 miles an hour, one-handed. What should I change, fill the gaps with? For me, the Journey would be closer to the Phase 2 than the Dark Code, and then I think you'd have a pretty big gap between the Dark Code and the Tour Dynamics. Well, I guess you got the Revenant.
Yeah.
So,
it's not bad, actually.
It isn't bad. I mean, I think you could consider adding a hustle if you get, because I think the Tour Dynamics is quite early to be your weakest ball.
Yeah.
And then at the top end, if the Absolute Power is a good option if you don't ever hit places where that doesn't look enough.
Yeah, there you go.
But like for me, I probably couldn't carry an Absolute Power as the strongest ball I had all the time.
Yeah, not everywhere. You could put a lot of surface on the Tour Dynamics and use it as a one ball / ball to play the gutter, but not going to be able to move it a lot with that one.
Another order came in from Daniel King. Thank you.
Nice.
Morning, gents. My son and I feel the exotic gem hits like a feather. Have either of you had a ball motion that you don't trust, but you still use it?
We have plenty that we've not trusted, but we don't still use them.
I was about to say, yes, urethane.
I almost 8-10 yesterday. That was one of the last shots I threw with it. Went 260, strike, 8-10. The 10 fell out, and followed by the 2-4-5 to try and make it get around the corner. I went, okay, we're done here. And
sorry, just real quick. Yes, or you can buy something on beefandbarnzy.com. So, but going back to this, talking about hitting weak,
that core spins up really early. And so we've seen this, like some people, it is amazing. And others, it just gets so early that it's so forward, it just doesn't go through the pins very well. And
DNA coil.
That covers the same as the Duo. And it wants to pick up for a shiny ball. The cover picks up pretty quick. DNA coil, like you said, that's a nice
And well, I was about to say I had the same thing with the DNA coil where it was fine. It was fine. And then this weekend I went flat 710, 810, back-to-back frames the last game. And I was like, man, why couldn't you have 810 the first frame? I'd have just immediately changed.
It'd been out.
So I ended up going from being able to shoot 260 to being able to shoot 212. And I just went and got the Vibo. Yeah. And it flew down the lane and it cracked the 6 out. The 6 cracked the 10. And that's the thing that is the hardest for me. And I'm sure for you as also is like when the balls are really close on those longer patterns and you don't know because you haven't really thrown another ball because it's been good the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and it just won't go through the pins. And then you change ball. You have to move a little left because you know it's going to hook more and it'll go through them. So, got a Summit and a Hype Solid. Do you think this would be a good option to add joining my first league this summer? I think that there are other things you could add to go in between your Summit and your Hype Solid. I think that the Blackout would be underneath. I would recommend something maybe like a Vibo or something to go in between so you had something a bit more angular, something a bit different shape-wise. Summit and Hype Solid are both fairly smooth balls. So
something with some polish that has some get after it down lane.
Appreciate the shows. Thank you. Off topic, but did you watch the Brady roast? I did. It was fantastic. One of my I thought Tom Brady was fantastic at the end. When Peyton Manning came out and gave him a bit of a hard time, and Tom went up on the mic and said, Peyton lives in Denver now, but has residences in wherever in New Orleans. He goes, but I mean, let's be honest, everybody knows he lives in my shadow. And all of the Patriots players jumped up and were like, yes! So that was a pretty good one. And then he turned to Jeff Ross. He gave Jeff Ross a bit of a slap and he goes, man, I'm really glad you convinced me to do this. I've found out that I'm the GOAT of something else. So it was a little long at 3 hours.
I've seen some highlights. There are some brutal ones in there.
Yeah. Bill Belichick was awesome. Yeah, he came out. He absolutely buried Danny Amendola and then stomped on top of his grave because Amendola didn't really say nice things about Belichick in the Patriots documentary thing. But Belichick's first line, we'll move off this real quick, but Belichick's first line was, I was surprised I got invited to the roast of Tom Brady, which shouldn't be confused with the roast of Bill Belichick that was on Apple TV just recently. So yes, I enjoyed it very much. Patriots fans, it's a much watch. Everybody else, they'll probably enjoy it. No problem, Mike. Mervan. Hey guys, current Arsenal reality, Magic Gem, Summit Peak, Hustle, and Journey and Hustle X-Ray. I think there's an enormous gap between the Journey and the Hustle X-Ray.
Yeah, Summit Peak is actually below the Journey, so but yeah, that's still enormous between those two. So
one of Chris's exponents, Exponent Pearl, would probably fit in there nicely to cover that gap.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why there are not many lefties on SPI staff? Only think of Rashton. Most of the lefties are on Brunswick Hammer. The Purple Hammer was the reason. At one point, pretty much everybody on the left side just was throwing that ball. So that's why a lot of the guys migrated because they felt like that was the one that gave them the best opportunity.
And at that one point, he means 7 years.
Yeah. But love the show. Well, thank you. Going to Nationals this weekend. Gem, Phase 2, Cosmos, Sonic. Oh, I haven't heard of one of those for a while. Hustle Camo Plastic. Which shiny ASIM should I consider? Medium revs, low tilt. I mean, Vibo probably.
Yeah,
I think
you have some smoother options already. Otherwise, I'd say a tension star, but I think Vibo is probably
I mean,
a better
DNA coil is
complement,
also good for Tina.
and that's an
She
in
prefers
between.
the coil.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think you go wrong with either one of those. 40
so
bucks. How much does it cost to get a ball drill on the truck? 40
$40.
with it. Yeah, pretty much no matter what. Two-handed, one-handed, switch, whatever.
Yeah, it's actually 45 to get a turbo ball drill because they installed the outer and we pay for
Oh, I
that, whereas
gotcha.
you install your stuff, so you don't have to pay for that.
Gotcha.
Larry, morning. Good luck on the double burn, Chris. Somebody who pays attention.
Yeah, my man Larry.
Um,
He went to Beef and Barnzy Clinic down in Houston.
Reality Phase 2 Vibo Hustle M&M IQU. What would you add? I would probably add.
Actually, the M&M is pretty strong on that end. So
yeah, I mean, I would add.
I mean, but
something between the Vibo and the Hustle M&M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exponent Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a symmetrical ball, and it would be a quicker symmetrical ball. Would be what I would add.
There you go. Exponent Pro. It's called
that. Yeah. Left-handed around 500 RPMs. I hope you're throwing urethane. How do you feel about drilling a ball straight up and down? Example of phase 2. The problem with this is like it all depends on your axis point. So it's not really up and down doesn't really mean anything. As such.
I would think since you're probably at 18 miles an hour, if you're around 500 revs, then you're super rev dominant for one. So you're going to be 5.5 inch pins. And where that CG moves, we feel matters a little bit, but it's very minor compared to getting that pin in the right spot from your axis point.
So yeah. I think talking to the pro shop and getting a plan for a couple of, if you're talking about just drilling one ball with the CG like kind of stacked, I don't think that's going to make that much difference on a phase 2 or any symmetrical ball, to be honest. This is a better question for Chris.
All right. Do you perform any stretching or exercise specifically before bowling? For your bowling arm, I have more issues with my legs, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, windmills, those kind of things. Both the stuff in front of you, anything rotational, just making sure your shoulders are loosened up. All those kind of normal.
I mean, I do sometimes
stretches, hand stuff,
try to
back
stretch
and forth,
this part out a little bit.
I do a lot of crisscross applesauce. I guess we're not allowed to say Indian style anymore. So doing stuff like that really loosen up my hips and do some stuff that loosen up my quads and those kind of things. So, but yeah, it's a little longer than it used to be for sure.
How long do you feel the tour dynamic to absorb oil? Because I've seen a dramatic diff with fresher and lane shine. Do you want to trick the layout too much? I don't want to trick the layout too much. It sounds to me like you're using a lot of surface, and if you use a lot of surface on pretty much any ball, they're going to change pretty quickly because everything kind of is going to like lean towards going towards the lane surface.
Right. 5 to 10 games, you're going to have to redo it. Probably.
Yeah. But I think you're going to see a pretty big drop off from practice to your first few shots. If you like it when it's absolutely just surfaced it, you're probably in trouble. You probably need a stronger layout.
Yeah. Or just use more surface to begin with and then go down to 360 instead of 500, for instance, and then so after it gets a little oil in it, it's still got surface.
I don't think either. He says, would a Lightning Blackout or a Hustle replace a Tour Dynamics? I don't think either of those balls would replace the Tour Dynamics because I think the Tour Dynamics is totally different to both of those balls.
Earlier than smoother.
If you're a two-hander with 16 or 17 miles an hour, I think that the Lightning Blackout would be a better ball for you overall than the Hustles. I guess if you were really trying to get something as close to a Tour Dynamics as possible, the Hustle X-Ray would probably be closer than the Lightning Blackout, but I don't think it's going to be the same. Hey, Glenn, frequent contributor to the show, says, good morning. Along with you two, Frankie is one of my favorite bowlers. I thought you would have a better season after working with Baker. Thank you for a great show. Yeah, I think Baker thought that too.
Obviously, drafted him early. Yeah.
Fundamentally, I think Frankie has an issue with his swing that he needs to fix, but it's very difficult to commit to fixing something that you still have some success with. And yeah, I just think that that's his main issue with the way his hand gets late on. So then he hits back on it and he has that track that goes over the thumb. I think that he's constantly fighting that. So
either got to own it.
3 more super chats.
Okay.
Quest for 900 says, Reality Phase 2, Vibo, Tour Dynamics, Exponent Pearl, Hustle, Rip, and M&M, Pitch Black. How's my Arsenal looking? It's looking really good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I
think you've got some pretty solid options there.
You cover a lot of bases in there.
Appreciate the show. Well, thank you. And Ivan says he loves the show. And then here we are, the last one. Mean Boy 2000 says, I have a pin down X2. Oh, this is definitely a Chris question. And considering a pension star pinup, how will the shapes be?
Well, the X2 is one of the cleaner balls. I like that one a lot. The Attention Star will be stronger in the mid lane and a little smoother. In the video, I think I basically say exactly that on the ball review. I was hoping this ball would be an X2 and super clean, and it's so pretty. But it is definitely stronger than an X2, and they will play off each other just fine. So.
We got 12 orders on beefandbarnzy.com and we got 57 super chats. I am going to have the 12 orders on beefandbarnzy.com as 1 through 12, and then the super chats are up to 69. I think that from what Chris has seen, the Vibo is actually a better replacement for the X2 than the Attention.
Closer, yeah. A little bit stronger, but that's by far the closest of the two. But the Attention Star will be stronger in the middle, a little more rounded, whereas the X2 is long and pretty.
Waiting for the new benchmark ball release. Yep, that is on today on the Storm YouTube page, so go check it out.
4 Central, I believe. Yeah. So
69. Right. So I haven't hit the button yet, so don't get excited. Thanks to the last couple of people who submitted, Kristen and Daniel. Thanks for your orders. Let me just share screen. Here we go. Are we ready? Ready, steady, generate 65.
Whoa.
So it was Glenn. Congratulations, Glenn.
Glenn is the winner of Lightning
Blackout. Send me an email and I will get it out to you. It will have to be next week because that ball doesn't come out until next Friday. So I will try and get it in the mail to you in the middle of the week. So it should come to you on release day. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks, guys. It's been a good show. I will try and edit this 14 versus 15 video today, but you know how that goes.
Where's Glenn send the email?
Glenn sent an email to beefandbarnzy@gmail.com.
There you go.
Thanks for the reminder. And if you have anybody who is interested in sponsoring the show, get them to reach out to us. You can find me and Chris on all our socials. email us at beefandbarnzy.com. Let us know. We're always looking for new partners for the show. Thanks to our current partners.
That is a fact. Yeah, I had a great time last week in Aberdeen. That was awesome. Glad to get to go there. Sandhills Bowling Center there. At the Villages here at Spanish Springs, thanks to my host, Chuck Novak, and last week, Adam Kraus. Always makes the tour more fun when you're not staying in another hotel. And wow, that's you've upped your game. Your thumbs up game is there we go. Probably will not be able to do a show. At least I won't be able to do a show on Thursday. Hopefully, we'll be back next week. And until now and then, congratulations, Glenn. But please support the sponsors, support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Niner Global, Coolwick, Fuller's Mart, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and Platinum Ford. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See you later, guys.